This is the American Indians, Indigenous Peoples Truce. Justice for all. The most dangerous show on media anywhere. OCO, Taishu, Shadana Lai, Aya J. Gola, Waya Sonoy. I'm Jay Winter Nightwolf, and welcome to the broadcast tonight. Hello, Leslie. How are you?
Halito, Chimichukma.
We have a very interesting show tonight, but before we get started, Leslie, would you do a land acknowledgement for us?
I will. So we've augmented our land acknowledgement. Just recently, I got some feedback about it. And one of the commentaries that we received about any land acknowledgement is that land acknowledgements just simply acknowledge the traditional stewards of the land, but they don't make a commitment to continue the progress of indigenous people of this world. So we actually decided to augment our land acknowledgement to reflect as such. Let's go.
Okay, not a problem.
So let's pause for a moment to acknowledge the traditional stewards of the lands that we reside on, and especially their ancestors, descendants, and all indigenous people who live now and have ever lived on this place that we call Turtle Island and beyond. But more than acknowledgement, let's honor and support our indigenous communities that still exist by helping them continue their land-based ways, their practices, traditions, and way of life, by dispelling false narratives about their history and promoting their authentic truths, by helping them heal from past wrongs and offenses, by assisting them and protecting them and restoring back to health, nature, and the water which brings life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Was there something that you wanted to do before we go into the discussion?
Right. So we do have a new show right now where we deal with, we show human interest stories that are in the news. And so we're going to start this program tonight by showing a particular human interest story that was very, very, very interesting. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this particular incident that occurred. So let's go ahead and let's show this human interest story tonight.
Okay.
Gonna bring you in the store, okay? I know. Just calm down.
Oh, some gut-wrenching video showing moments. A kayaker saves a child who was floating in the middle of the St. Louis River up near Duluth there. That whole rescue from start to finish was caught on the kayaker's GoPro.
Now, Rose Schmidt joins us live now from the newsroom. Rose, the child back home with family safely, but what happened here?
Well, Amy, a man was fishing out on the river fighting a sturgeon when he saw a little boy stranded in the middle of the channel. As a former police officer, he says his law enforcement training kicked in, so he intervened, potentially saving the child's life.
In the middle of the St. Louis River,
something no one wants to see.
You gonna be able to make it in the shore? You need some help? Okay.
A 6-year-old all by himself, panicking and
You're in the
screaming.
shore, okay? I know. Just calm down. Calm down. Just hold my hand.
Something that was almost indescribable, something that you would honestly hear from a horror movie.
On July 5th, David Jones was fishing near Duluth when he heard the boy's cries for help. Drawing on his background in patient care, he kept the boy calm, helped him grab onto the kayak, and they made their way to shore.
You're strong, right? Okay, all right. So I just need to be strong for a few more seconds.
He then asked a stranger at a nearby home to get the boy a towel, as they called 911 and waited for paramedics to arrive. People online have hailed David a hero, but he says he did what anyone would have done.
You got a kid that's bobbing up and down in the middle of the water on the St. Louis River. It's 57 degrees outside, so I'm not sure what the water temperatures were.
Before he started fishing, David had seen the little boy swimming next to his dad's sailboat. Duluth police say they interviewed the boy's family, who told officers he lost hold of a rope attached to the boat, and the wind and the currents prevented him from swimming to shore.
Yeah, are you still really, really cold?
Yeah, I'm colder.
Yeah, okay.
This behavioral health technician says his main concern was for the child's health because he had started turning blue. He posted the video on social media in hopes of bringing attention to water safety. And he says despite the conditions out on the water, the little boy held on and never gave up.
I hope that he can recover from this incident and be fine, and also hope that he never gets put in this position again by another adult.
So
Amazing.
let me just fill in some of the gaps that the news didn't tell you. The father who was in the water with his son left his son there. He did not know he was on. The father was intoxicated.
Oh, no.
And this is what the gentleman was talking about, that he hopes that he can inform people about safety. He did not know that his son had actually fallen off. He saw him, but he didn't come and get him. He just was, I guess he was too intoxicated. So when they brought the little boy to shore and they told him that they needed to call 911 just to make sure that he was fine, the little boy got very upset and said, please don't call 911, because he knew that his father would be in trouble. So this is something that happens. This neglect happens a lot. But they did find him. They checked him out. He was fine. And then when the father spoke to the gentleman who saved him about thanking him about it, he was very lax about it. He was like, oh, yeah, I was hoping that the water would bring him back in. What they also didn't tell you is 2 people drowned in that area about 2 months ago because of the current. The interesting thing that I wanted to highlight about this is these are stories that we don't often see about people of color doing what they're supposed to do in an incident such as this. Often the news portrays this in a very negative light.
Mhm.
And so just seeing this gentleman react and jump in and do something, for this child, I do recommend that the video footage, the entire video footage is on YouTube. You can find it. So you can look at it. But it was, for me, when I watched it, it was heart-wrenching. I actually cried. Just the idea of some child being stranded out there in the water and his parent not being able to get him because he was incapacitated. The police did not press charges on the father or the family.
Well, they say when you drink, don't drive. When you drink, don't get on the water and try to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope he's learned his lesson.
Well, I don't know in the exact footage that was not edited, that the father, he's someone who drinks a lot. So,
Well, he should have been issued a citation.
yeah,
But
he wasn't.
But we can talk about what they should and should not have done for the next 24 hours.
Right.
Okay, so let's get what we're going to do now. Get to the show.
Let's get to the show. Let's bring everyone in.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Full house. All right. So here we are. And I was so happy to meet my new sisters and brothers that I'd never seen in person over the last week, 2 weeks. And so let's start with.
Can you explain where you met everyone first?
Oh, yeah.
Where have you
Uh,
met everyone?
Well, actually, there were two events. The first one was the event we're talking about tonight, ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, and how the United States Supreme Court is trying to chip away at our sovereignty more and more. The United States government and Indian nations in their constitution have a government to government relationship. So that makes us sovereign, just like this government, this US government is sovereign. And they just can't change the rules only because they feel like it. There's an issue with the pipeline 5 being stopped by Biden administration, and the oil companies, I feel, and some people have proof, are behind financing this white evangelical couple, claiming that it discriminates against them. No, that's got nothing to do with it. You are, if you don't know it, you're being played as a pawn by the oil companies so the oil companies can get their way. No, we're tired of this. So I just had to mention that.
But explain to our audience what is actually happening with ICWA, why everyone is marching on DC about ICWA.
Well, ICWA was brought about in 1978. It's called the Indian Child Welfare Act. The act says that if a native child's parents are no longer able to take care of them, whether the children have been abused or whatever, that the children must be placed with members of that tribe or members of another Indian tribe. Our children are not up for adoption. And as long as that law is in place, that will protect the rights of these children. But like I said, they're trying to chip away at our sovereignty. And they're using their big bucks from oil to try to make these permanent changes to the law. No. I, for one, and all my guests and friends here, we see right through that. It's a sham. It's a game. And if they're successful in doing that, then what next will they go after that we have as Indian people?
The importance of actually placing children that have problematic situations at home with other Native children is so that these children continue in our ways. Fortunately, there have been some really horrific incidences where children have been placed with people who are not of their community, and there has been neglect, there has been abuse, and even death as a result of placing them in communities that do not understand our ways. And so this is why this is important to maintain ICWA, to make sure that it's in place. There is no governing policy that says that when a child is placed with, let's say, a Caucasian family for that matter, that they can go in there and recommend to that family that they make sure that the children are staying within the guidelines of being a Native child. So this is the importance of this. It's not about adoption. It's not about that we are against it. It's about making sure that they're in an environment that they understand.
Preserving their language and their culture and traditions. If you take an Indian child away from their Indian community, they'll never know who they are. So let me move on to Brian. Your thoughts on that?
Let me get my mic on. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I've been a champion for the children, not only on and off the reservation, and off the reservations also. I've worked in mental health as a child care specialist, and I met you, Jay, and everyone there, SHEILA's, over the weekend, and I'm graced to be there. I was graced to meet you people, and you know, I will always champion for human rights, and it doesn't matter. It reminds me of a friend I just talked to. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, because these atrocities go on right here in Massachusetts, where I'm from, and I'm sure it's, you know, I know it's absolutely worse on the reservation, including up in Maine and Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont. We have the same problems here with government trying to take control over the care and welfare of the children, which is, you know, basically they're overwhelmed. The system is overwhelmed. I met with one of the therapists that comes in, and I had just talked with one of my friends who they PC'd him in front of his 5-year-old, and she's still traumatized from the event. They took him out in handcuffs, and because he's also a brother veteran, and he was having some difficulties with, you know, with substance abuse and other mental health issues. So thank you, COVID, for all of that. You know, brought a lot of this stuff back out into the light again. You know, I was forced to get outside the box and work with the community more actively, and I'm happy to, you know, have met you guys, and I'm here at the church. I came down with the youth group from Massachusetts, from my church, and you know, and today I was thinking about conditions on reservations out west, and it's cold. There's been a lot of snow. There's heating problems. There's water problems. There's, you know. So.
Tasha Potter. Tasha, your thoughts on this? I saw you there too, right? Tasha? Okay. We'll come back to Tasha. John, tell me your story.
Well, as far as I know about ICWA, I did a lot of research on it. I have actually over 1,000 pages on it back at home. When I was serving my previous prison sentence, my children were put into a foster home because my baby's mother was unfortunately doing drugs, selling drugs, and I was already serving the sentence. And judge said that he was going to strip me of my parental rights. So I was like, well, this can't be right. Like, I'm already serving time. How am I being held responsible for what took place while I'm serving time? So I went to reading up on on ICWA. You know, I started with just one statute, and I ended up with 1,000 pages. So I'm pretty versed in child protection and ICWA. From what I understand, is a lot of it had to do with the way that the government and the Catholic Church came up with this manual in the early 1900s for Canada on how to take kids legally from their parents, being that they practiced traditional spiritual ceremonies, pipe ceremonies, smudging, speaking their language, growing their hair, and they wanted to strip that of our people. And so the best way that they could do it was by putting them and displacing them into all white family homes. And with the extraordinary work of American Indian movement and everything that they done, plus the Black Panthers and Martin Luther King fighting for civil rights and religious freedoms through the 60s and 70s, this allowed us and gave us grounds to get ICWA. Indian Child Welfare Act, which was passed in the House in 1977. It was then passed over into law and made part of the Constitution in 1978. But it wasn't really enforced until the early 80s. Me speaking from being that foster child, I was part of the end of that, along with the displacement of Catholic schools. My family have never recovered. So therefore, I speak to you in a foreign language to get you to do. You know, my family never recovered from the Catholic Church and the government's displacement of the Indian children. The reason why ICWA came about was to keep our children and younger generations in touch with our traditional ways because they were being stripped so vastly. Thousands of children in all records of where they were born, their mothers, their fathers, their grandparents was all stripped of the records. So there's kids out here that don't even know that they're Native American because they grew up in Black family homes, white family homes, Asian family homes, Mexican family homes. They have no idea where they came from or who their actual bloodline is. And to keep it short, that's about the best that I can do for you on this ICWA matter. And I believe that ICWA should stand for the safety of our children, keeping them within traditional practices. And
keeping them in their
the
culture.
scary part about it is I believe that there's going to be more Catholic churches. And those that haven't been searched yet for the missing children that never return home are going to reopen just so they don't have to be searched.
So let me ask the chief that's sitting beside you. Chief, your name again, sir?
Matthew Black Eagle Man.
Yes, right. Chief, what is your take on all of this? And you being from Canada and the closing of that school, Calhoun, and what they found when they went into the basement of that school.
I remember being a part of those boarding schools as a kid. Me, my brothers and sisters were all put into those boarding schools. We were on the very tail end of that, but my brother Paul and I both knew that this was wrong. It was what was happening made us fearful for our sister, and so we ran away. First thing we did, went back to the reservation, and that only brought fear to my family to do that. I didn't understand why I got scolded for coming home, but the reason was because now they're going to come and get him at the res, and they would come and get us. So we moved into Winnipeg. We moved to Winnipeg so my mom would stay out of the line of the boarding schools and the Catholic people. But that's like jumping from the frying pan into the fire when we moved into Winnipeg. Because then there was child, I can't remember the name of this institution, they call it in Canada. So we grew up, in that system, away completely and totally away from any relation. I'm talking any native blood.
Right.
The abuses that happened, we have to remember that there's a different time and people had a different mindset about their place, their life, their history, where we fit or don't in their lives. 33 foster homes in 3.5 years, not counting the group homes that I was put into over overnight stays, wherever they could put me up. That's how many homes I went into, because that's how many different types of abuse that we were exposed to. One of the worst was a place that actually put me in a barrel and put a lid on the barrel because the family was having a gathering and I was an inconvenience that day. I spent my 2 days in a barrel. I don't think any other Indian people would have ever done that to me.
No,
I'm
no.
sure of it. But the truth of it is, I said this today as we were riding in the vehicle with all these relatives in a program we did, but I would never argue to any issues that a woman have amongst women.
Right.
Because I've never been a woman. And I hold the place to every institution that thinks they have any right of jurisdiction over Indigenous people. I hold them to that place. You don't know what it is to be Indian. You can't offer what Indian people need because that's not in your constitution, not your law constitution, but the personal makeup of who you are. It's not born in them, it was born in us. They cannot begin to understand the value of being close to even anybody of native blood, feeling like we're among relatives. But when you become a part of this system, and as I heard that word, the system became overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. Whoa, what does that mean, overwhelmed? They asked for it. They came in and made it happen that way. Overwhelmed. I don't agree. They're overwhelming our people by intruding. They write these laws, these constitutions, and they think that means access. But they don't understand that's not what these protection laws about our culture and heritage mean. That doesn't mean access to our children. That doesn't mean access to our ceremonies. That doesn't mean understanding to any part of it. They don't need to know. All they need to know is that they're our children. I belong to my family. They robbed me of my family. If the United States wants to look at something in history to say, maybe we better change our direction, Canada could possibly go broke over the number of lawsuits that's going to come out over the amount of children that they shipped all over the world during the 60s scoop. Hundreds of thousands of children are missing. The United States, if they think they want to heal the fabric of this land, they better start with respecting Indigenous people. It's the responsibility of their point of view to protect, preserve our culture and way of life, and you can't do that through assimilation.
Right, you're absolutely
genocide. It's a long form of genocide. Tribal status becomes the issue. Where's our blood quantum line? So many problems come into play when they take away our children. It's a long-term plan. It's not going to work because we're not going to lay down and accept someone coming for my children or my grandchildren and saying that they can tell them better how to be a Dakota Sioux than me. That won't happen, not in my lifetime and not in my watch.
That's right.
So ICWA is something that I wish that the Canadian government would have understood the value of the Association of the Manitoba Chiefs, the Association of the Saskatchewan Chiefs, that put into place the bylaws to protect and the steps to go through to preserve Indigenous people to be growing up among other Indigenous people. What's given to us was given to somebody else.
Thank you so much. You got a lot of points, and it's all relevant. Let me go to Tiffany MOUZON. Are you on with us?
Yes, sir, I'm here, and thank you. I'm honored to represent the Gullah Geechee Nation and to listen and learn. And I'm honored to be among you all and our ancestors. I only have two quotes here that I'm going to share. One is from the senior staff attorney, Erin Daughtery Lynch of Native American Rights Fund. And she says, in a coordinated, well-financed, direct attack, Texas and other opponents aim to simultaneously exploit Native children while undermining the law that protects them, all while potentially undermining the entire framework of federal tribal relations. If they succeed in weakening protections for Native children, it could negatively impact Native families and tribes for generations.
Okay. And the
second quote is just reestablishing that this is a coordinated, specific attack of the goal of lawsuits and lawsuits like this is the goal is to erase ICWA and dismantle tribal sovereignty. And many anti-tribal sovereignty interests came together to establish an alliance. And at the end of it, I agree with you, Uncle Jay, that this is about money, that this is a profitable industry and they are aligned together. And I urge us to continue to be aligned to fight against this. And I'm here for that fight.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Tasha, are you with us? Tasha? Hello, I can't hear you. All right, let me come back to you. Alice, Allie, I know you've been involved in this for a while, and you are the president of the American Indian Society of Washington, D.C. What do you have to say? What say you?
Thank you for this opportunity, Brock, and to all my relations. I'm honored to be with you tonight.
Can you get a little closer to your mic? Get closer to your mic.
On this plane. Can you hear me now? Hold on.
Okay. Uh-oh, what happened to her? She disappeared. Tasha, can you speak now? Can't hear you. Something's wrong with your mic. Okay.
I wanted to actually express the seriousness of this issue and why it is so vitally important that we have ICWA. Recently, a friend of mine who is actually a liaison between ICWA and the communities within her tribe went to investigate a case where there were three young girls. I think they were 6, 7, and maybe 12, placed with a Christian family. This family was involved in the church at a high level, and the oldest child died. The two other children were taken into custody and gone to the hospital because they were starved. They had not been eating. And it was simply a case where they weren't able to go in and investigate to make sure these young girls were put in this environment. Three sisters, and one of them succumbed to not being able to eat, to starvation. These are the kind of situations where perhaps there might have been a lack of communication, whatever the case. And then they have two parents, unfortunately, that are addicted to drugs. And so they couldn't place them back home because both parents were in that situation. But I feel that if it had been a community where they were being taken care of by their own community, we would not have suffered the death of the oldest child. And these are the situations that are extremely dire, and why ICWA is so vitally important to our communities and our communities being sustainable, to being able to keep up our ways and traditions. Just imagine being plucked out of your community, drawn into another situation where you are forced to, a religion is forced upon you. And then whoever the caretakers were at this time, not giving you enough food to eat. Just imagine. They were supposed to be placed in a safe place, and yet this is what happened. So who failed them? Who failed these kids? And I believe that it was our government failed these kids by placing them somewhere where they did not belong.
That's right. That's right. Most of the blame is on the government's shoulders, regardless of what anybody thinks. Ali, go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. What I wanted to say is that what is the best way to destroy a people is to destroy the children. We know that with the introduction of their alcohol and drugs, and people are looking for something. We have allowed these people to come in with promises. And what I know for a fact, and this is from my grandmother, that when they came, they didn't come harshly. They didn't come and swoop them away. What she came and she says to my great grandmother, she says, we have a place that will educate your daughters so that they can be productive citizens. Now, people may not believe in spirituality and they're not spirit people, but at that moment where she was thinking that, oh, this would give my daughters an opportunity, the ancestors spoke and said, no, don't do that. Don't do that, because the school that they were sent, because I'm from Pennsylvania, they did not plan to send her to Carlisle. What they would do is send them all the way across the country where they couldn't get back, and most of them died. So one of the things that we have to think about is why. Begin with why. Why are they taking our children? Why are they seeing our people as unfit parents? Now, we are willing to go to other countries and teach parenting skills and help them to rid things up so that they can be prepared to be better parents. But with the Native community, this is a form of, this is the same thing they have done for 500 years. Let them destroy themselves, and we're going to sit on the outside and look. And when you wonder where these children are, and like my brother Matt was saying, I deal with it all the time. The children become damaged, and now you are trying to put them back together, and it is a lifetime of hurt and pain and betrayal. So yes, the government, or their government, is at fault, but we are also at fault, and I will tell you why. Because we haven't unified. We need to come together and oust them. We have to protect our people and our children. We'll do what we need to do. And once we become unified, I promise you that they will not step on sovereign land, which, if you think about it, all of Turtle Island is sovereign land, but we must protect our people and our children.
Thank you so much. And before I go to SHEILA, there's one thing I have to say. Their whole intention when they came across the waters was to take everything we had. They brought these laws here that were foreign to us. They established their government. And one of the things that they really had a problem with was they call Indian offenses. Anybody remember that?
Yes.
Indian offenses. You can't pray the way you were taught to pray. You can't worship the God that you were taught to worship. You can't. But in the end, it has all turned out to be adverse for us until we fought them back and got our Freedom of Religion Act. Our religions is our medicine. And it's not none of this organized going to church and having some fool stand up there in front of you with an all black with a turned back collar and try to tell you that you're blessed. I was blessed the day I was born. I am an indigenous person of the Western Hemisphere. That's my blessing. And my teachers were my ancestors, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, all of that. So I don't need you to tell me anything. The only thing you could do is get out of my face before I put you out of my face. Tasha?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Come on.
Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tasha Potter, and listening to all of the heartbreaking stories. Um, that's what they did with my ancestors. This was in the 1800s, though. They started then with natives here in this area. That is the reason why we are a mixed, multiracial people, is because uh, the stories that were told were that the natives that were here were pushed up the Blue Ridge Mountains, and they took all the children and placed them underneath of the church and hiding the ones that remained here. And that was with the Quaker Church. And now I see where the connection comes in. As I was reading on this act that Congress passed in 1978, it was because someone out there was stopping the children from going with their from being with the tribes and getting back with them, and someone was helping to put them back there. So they passed all these acts so that they couldn't be put back with their tribes. So I heard someone say they ran away to go back to the reservations, but that was the whole point of this act, is so that they could put them and displace them in different homes, and so they can put them in Asian homes and in boarding schools and foster care and churches and all these different places, so that they wouldn't know their traditions. Like me, I don't know none of my traditions. It stopped at my great great grandmother and grandfathers. From there on, we lost everything. So now I'm just now coming back into the circle, and I'm here to listen, to learn, and to carry on what they stole from us. They stole our traditions, they stole our ways. They're trying to erase our bloodline. And so that's why they did all of this, is so that we could be nowhere, so that it could be, when you look at someone, you'd be like, you wouldn't know if they even had native blood in them. So they just wanted to erase us from this particular coast because they wanted this coast. And there's more reasons why they wanted it. Some people would say it's a conspiracy, but it's really not, because right here in this Washington, D.C. area, and especially in the Bull Run area, the satellite media signal is so strong that goes into the upper atmosphere. That's where you get your media from. It's so strong. That's why they placed everything here. So they placed Quantico where my tribe used to fish. So this weekend they're going to do a Doe Egg Trail walk, and that's my tribe where we used to fish and hunt and go and parlay and have fun on the water.
Okay.
They all those people are gone, but we are still here. So I just want to say there's hope for us. There's hope for us, even though Congress and the government wants to erase our bloodlines and to make us lose our traditions and cause us not to know who we are. We have to unite together, no matter the color of our skin. If someone says they have native blood in them, welcome them back in, because you don't know who their ancestor might be. Their ancestor could be someone in your bloodline. So connect with people. Let's show Congress that we can reunite together back again, even though they tried to separate us, even though they tried to displace us, even though they tried to say, if you don't have a certain amount of native blood or indigenous blood in it, then you are no longer native. Let's stop them from doing that. Let's carry on. Let's accept each other and love each other and know that this is our land. And if we unite together, and I'm working with the powers that be, if we unite together, they will listen.
Yes,
They
that's
will
true.
listen.
Let me
And
say
so,
something. Let me say something about that. Chief Billy Tyak, who was the chief of the Piscataway Indian Nation, and also one of the founding members of AIM back in the 70s, along with Dennis Banks and Russell Means and all the rest of those people. I had him on a radio show I used to host about, I guess it must have been about 15 years ago. Since then, Chief Tyak, Uncle Billy, has taken his walk in the spirit world. So I asked him one question. I said, Uncle Billy, who is an Indian? And that was at the end of the show. He said to me, Nightwolf, I'll tell you the truth. An Indian is one that carries the sacred ancient blood of the Western Hemisphere in his or her veins. He said, I don't care if it's got Chinese in it, black in it, or anything else in it, even if it's got gray squirrel in it. He said, if you carry that blood, even if it's just one drop, then you're an Indian. And I never forgot that. You know, I've met so many people in my life. And I've met, you know, brothers and sisters that are as white as snow with hazel eyes. And when they tell me their last name and I ask them, who are your people? And that's the question that you get from Indian people. Who are your people? Who's your family? I accept them as being my sister and my brother. And that's the way it should be. All this other stuff about, I tell you, the worst thing in the world is to have another Indian to talk down to you and ask you if you got a card. A lot of us, I have a card, but a lot of us don't have cards. And my question to them is, why the hell are you trying to pedigree me? You pedigree animals, not human beings. So you accept it on face value. So that's my spill to it. I know you wanted to say something, Brian. Go ahead. I can't hear you. Turn your mic on.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know, the feeling I get in my veins from my heritage and culture, which I'm really not sure of, but I ally myself mostly with Native American culture and tradition. You know, it's in my heart, it's in my blood. I don't know where it came from, but I have relatives that came over on the Mayflower and probably were tortured and hung from colonists, you know. So you know, I'm happy to be part of this family by all means and be accepted by you folks here, especially.
Absolutely.
I felt right at home over the weekend.
Oh yeah. Tiffany, I see you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
What's your thoughts on this? And by the way, Tiffany is a graduate of Howard University Law School. She don't like to tell people that, but I know her. That's my sweetheart. Go ahead.
You always put me at Howard. I graduated from the University of the District of Columbia, David A. Clark School of Law.
That's just right around the corner.
It's across the street. I get it. That's our joke. Yes, I'm Gullah Geechee. And I feel welcome because there are parts of our history and ancestry that, again, it is very difficult to be welcome into certain native spaces. So again, I do appreciate the openness. And again, when I met you, Uncle Jay, it was immediate. I mean, he looked at me and he said, I was waiting on you. And I said, well, here I am. So, and that was 10 years ago. So, I think it's important, and especially important when it comes to the conversation around children and what's best, the welfare of children. And I think for me, I just want to say this as part of the ICWA discussion. One of the points that gets missed about ICWA is that one of the provisions is to provide active efforts to the family, to the actual parents and that community.
Yeah.
And that gets missed a lot. And if we band together and we stand firm to defend ICWA, we also want to make sure we're defending that point, because resources get sent all over the world for all over a lot of different things, and Les spoke to that. And I just want to say that the resources are there. So before we even get to adoptions and foster care and all of these other things, has this federal government, sovereign to sovereign, provided resources to try to help the family? Because the story that started the show, that father did not receive any citations, any punishment, and probably was offered support, was probably offered, something to help his parenting or his ability to be a better parent. So I just wanted to leave that point. But again,
Okay.
I'm honored and welcome to be here.
Absolutely. Let me go back to the chief, the chief, the Dakota chief. You heard what all of us have said. Do you have any thoughts on what we said?
Yeah, I agree, wholeheartedly that the values that can't be understood on the level of politics are at play, and getting somebody to understand that value is like I said earlier, me trying to argue with a woman how to be a woman. I can't do that. I don't know how to make that bridge for that.
No.
And so
No.
coming together strong as a people to protect sovereignty is the only way I see. Our huge responsibility to ourselves needs to be taken stronger by a lot of people beyond the political side of any arena, because that is a whole nation arena. We are tribal people. We're not individualistic. We're not supposed to be that way. They've reached the heart of a lot of different things by this separation, but they didn't kill us. They're not going to ever dampen the spirit of an indigenous person born with that even one drop of blood that they have, because that's alive in this land inside of them, and we honor and respect that.
Thank
so
you.
Finding our resource to be introspective even to this issue as a people is huge at this point, so that we have our people in place to take responsibility where sometimes people fall short. Not my place to judge, but if we pick up those children and keep them from getting someplace else,
right,
we need more of that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief. Let's go back to you again, Allie. Let's take over for a minute. I got to get up for a second and go get my dog in here.
Mute. There we go. I couldn't unmute. It's Tiffany. You came in after I had spoken, but this is spirit. Everything you said, I had just said, almost verbatim, word for word. So that tells you that we have a unified mind, and that's very important. Yes, we have to begin with why, and we have to begin with coming together. And that is one of our hardest things because, Matt, as you well know, and John, Brian, I'm sure you do too. What is separating us now are the haves and the have-nots. We have traded our culture for the green god. And I know this for a fact. I lived in New Mexico, and my people, the Lenape people, have a lot of things going on in Pennsylvania. We're fighting. We're constantly fighting for recognition. I mean, New Mexico, we had one of the sovereign. We like to say, we could say res, but that's within our community. We say that. To them, we say sovereign. So on this particular res, it was impoverished, but that's okay. Because when I would go to teach and such, we began to teach survival, how to build up, not how to live like you see on television. That is their life. It's not ours, because you're going to trade your spirit for $1. So we have so much healing to do and so much work to do. And the first thing I think we have to remember is that we are really one people in four directions. So it's good to see you, Les. Brian, how are you?
I'm
I,
excellent.
I,
I'm
I,
so moved by being part of all this, and like I told Jay, one of I may have mentioned it to Matt. It seems like my whole life has led up to this, basically because I always questioned, a lot of different things, especially during childhood. Never felt like I was trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so
So
it's
you
nice.
were on Sesame Street. You were that kid.
Yeah, yeah.
You know that little song.
That's
We were doing
me
it in the
too. What's
car
the
today. One of these things is not like the other. That was you, Brian.
That was great. I was still trying to work it in there, but I think the most important thing I learned over the weekend is the importance of the ceremony um, that we provide, and also the ceremonies in whatever church you belong to. But it's important that we stick to the ceremonies that feel good and right. And the ceremony that we had uh, Saturday night at the farm was absolutely amazing. I froze my butt off, but it was good.
Okay. Can we, John, do you have any closing words? Because we got to wrap up now. You got any closing thoughts, John?
Yeah, I pray that that the Supreme Court don't follow through with this and keep ICWA alive, keep our traditions alive, and man, bring awareness to the Catholic Church and all the buried bodies that are outside them boarding schools.
I just got this one thing to say about. No, I can't curse. So anyway, Tasha, in less than a minute, can you give us your closing thoughts? And before you talk, Tasha, will all of you come back again maybe next week because we're going to be talking about Leonard Peltier? All right. Okay. Tasha, you got the stage.
I'll be happy to come back.
All right. Tasha?
Me too. Honored to come back.
All right.
Honored to come back. I just want to say thank you for having me on. I do appreciate it, and I feel welcome. Thank you. And again, thank you for allowing me to speak to you all. I pray that everything that this government is trying to do to stop our people from coming together, uniting, that whatever they want for us that's bad, it would not happen. That all good things come. It's my prayer. All good things.
Thank you, Tasha. I love you, sister.
I love you too, my brother. And hello, Elise. I love you.
Okay, so let's go now for closing thoughts from Allie.
I would like to leave you with this. We reach, we teach, we share, we build. And when we utter our words are to construct and bring hope and joy. If we cannot utter these words or lend a hand to one another while we're on this globe, then we should remain silent and become invisible.
Absolutely. And I know you'll come back again. Tiffany, closing thoughts in less than a minute if you can.
Yes, again, just honored to be here and grateful for our ancestors. And I'll leave a thought that reminds me of my great grandmother. May the circle remain unbroken.
Okay, so I'm going to give my closing thoughts. When I was a little boy, we would go down to South Carolina to visit with my mom's mom and dad, grandma and grandpa. And we would be outside playing, and grandpa would walk out. He had built this table around this big oak tree. And he would look at us and say, "Do you boys know what it's all about?" And my cousin Mikey would say, "No, Grandpa, what is it all about?" He would stand up and give us a speech. He said, "Your brothers and your sisters do not have to look like you to be your brothers or your sisters." And then he would say, "It's not about the pigmentation of your skin or the color of your eyes or the texture of your hair. It's not about the clothes you wear. It's not about your traditions or your culture. And it's not about who you worship and call God." And then he would stand up and put his right hand over his heart. And he would look at us. And he would say, "Do you want to know what it's all about?" And again, Mikey would say, "Yes, Grandpa, tell us." And he would look at us and say, "It's how you treat my heart. That's what it's all about. Color ain't got a damn thing to do with it. How you treat my heart." So I will leave you all with these words in Cherokee. Danada, Goai, Wado. And Wado in Cherokee is thank you. Thank you all for being a part, the major part of this broadcast tonight. I love you all of you. Even those of you that make it impossible to love. I love you anyway, because somebody needs to love you. Talk to you next week. And thank you, Leslie, so much.